Hi, my name's Lata Hamilton and I am from Sydney in Australia. And I'm a change leadership and confidence expert. And I work with women and help them carve their own paths for change in their career, their leadership, and their lives. And I offer executive coaching, change leadership training, and change consulting services. And my archetypes were really interesting. I was a number one, an accumulator, number two, a ruler, and number three, a maverick. But actually all of them rated really highly. So they were all really, really similar. And I knew that I was an accumulator, but thinking that I had such a high ruler and such a high maverick was a big surprise to me.
April, I actually have similar ones to you, but just in different order. So I'm ruler, maverick, romantic. And I want us to start with some sabotages. So how are your sabotages showing up for you? And Lata, the accumulator, ruler, maverick is a really interesting combination, right? Because you've got two that can be very, not impulsive necessarily with the ruler, but the maverick can. The ruler wants to go speed, but sometimes the accumulator wants to do things in a more methodical way. I'm really curious about how that combination was sabotaging you, especially before you did SMA and before you realized that, that was your combination. What was going on?
Yeah, finding out that I was an accumulator was not a surprise to me at all. I've always been a great saver. I've always, like, when I was a kid, apparently my siblings used to trade me like the big shiny 50-cent coins for the little dirty $2 coins. And I was like, yeah. So I always had more money than them. So being an accumulator was not a big surprise. I like to save, I like to invest for the future and make those kind of prudent investments, and return on investment is a really big thing for me. But then the flip side of that is that I don't like to spend money unnecessarily. So giving myself opportunities to treat myself, to buy things at full price, to invest in things that might save me time in my business, invest in help for my business, and not have to necessarily do everything myself. So while I do sort of see personal development and business courses as being a great investment for myself and for my future, I often go into them thinking, oh, I'm learning it so that I can do it, and not necessarily thinking about how I could maybe be learning, like doing some learning or doing some development, thinking how I could actually bring other people into my business to help me. So a real reluctance to upgrade on like technology or support or any of those sorts of things, and actually just spend that money. And then probably with a bit of the ruler too, that real, I guess, kind of like feeling like it's never enough, and really feeling like, especially with the, like, obviously as an accumulator, I do save so much money that other people would just be gobsmacked. Like before I moved to my business full time, I had 2 years worth of living expenses in cash savings. But then I still feel like that's not enough. So I really feel those kinds of ruler sabotages start to come in, and really feel like it's not enough. And that's why probably it was a surprise to see that I was a maverick, because that risk, like I'm very risk averse. So seeing that riskiness sort of start to pop up, it is like I will take risks as long as they're measured and I'm certain of the return on investment on them.
Which is, I think, a beautiful thing that fellow mavericks can learn from you, right? That you can help them with, is to see it's okay to take a pause, and it's okay to maybe check these things off before, and then you can go, yeah, cool, jump in. But I'm glad that it hasn't really stopped you. But I laughed at the 2 year savings, because I remember in my first year of coaching, I was really trying to coax this woman who really wanted to go full-time in her business. And I was like, well, she was like, it has to work. And she was pregnant. She was like, it has to work, guys. It has to work. And I was like going to my co-host, I was like, oh my God, this woman's going to be homeless on the street if we don't help her with her business strategy. And I was like, just tell me, like, how much savings do you have until you run out? And she was like, 6 years. And I went, oh my God, because as a ruler maverick, a week would be fine. A week's worth of savings would be totally fine for me, because I could just make more money. But you have to appreciate that about yourself, is that fear is going to sabotage you if not. And what do you think that fear has stopped you from, being, doing, or becoming as an accumulator?
I probably haven't sort of invested in my business and put the time into my business early on. It's like probably taken me a lot of years to really even commit to my business and really be consistent with it, because I was more going for the sure thing, that would like career that would actually get me that income. So probably just business growth, but also speed of success would really heavily be impacted, and probably also a bit of a lack of empathy with clients and other people in my life, because I can't get my head around how other people don't have savings. Like I literally can't fathom it. So when people are like, oh, I can't afford the course, but I will, I want to join it at like my course at the end of the year. Like, I'm like, how do you not have that amount of money sitting there? Because it's absolutely unfathomable to me. And by the same token, I often don't offer payment plans, because I'm like, I've always got the cash there and I want to get like an upfront saving. So I'll always pay upfront. So probably a little bit of a lack of empathy, where maybe I don't think about how other people, like what their purchasing style is or their decisions. And so I might be sort of, I guess, resisting easy income or alternative paths for income, because I am kind of stuck in the way that I think and the way and the security that I have, and assume that everybody would have that as well.
Well, we all kind of make that mistake. I think we often market how we would buy. A lot of us do that. But I had a really big realization about accumulators this week when we were talking about passive income, income coming in no matter what. They were like, yeah, but Denise, that's a job. Like I would rather have a job because I know that will come in. Whereas passive income just seems like this pie in the sky thing that you said is going to come in. And so I was like, oh yeah, so passive income almost feels like that would just be a job for accumulators. Like blew my mind. I was like, oh yeah, we really just sometimes are talking a different language with each other.
Yeah. And if we can't, like if we can recognize it in ourselves, but then also just maybe allow for other people to have other styles, and think about, well, what might they need in order to get them over the line, or to have them feel safe and them feel secure. And yeah, I've probably been guilty of that in the past, and I am working to improve. So I should actually go and look at all of the other archetypes and find out more about them, because I haven't. I've just focused on my top 3. So probably it would be a good exercise to go and have a look at them and try and understand them a bit better, to think about who are all the people who might be in my world, both personal and in my business, and how might I maybe not be speaking their language.
Well, that's what we're doing in the new course, which is good. We're doing like a little bit of a cheat sheet of like asking the groups, what turns you on, what turns you off. And it was really unexpected. Like it was different than I thought it would be. But I'm curious for you, Lata, because all the accumulators that we've interviewed say that a money back guarantee is really important to them in one of their purchase decisions. Is that something that is important for you to see on like a sales page or something like that?
I'm not sure. I can't really remember it necessarily affecting the purchase decision. I think it definitely is like a sweetener, but it's not the thing that drives me to actually purchase, because I know I already have the money there. And with a money back guarantee, I feel like I've already gone and done the due diligence to think about what the return on investment would be and whether it's going to be right for me. And I've done all of that research up front, because I do see it as an investment. So I've done all of that up front. So the likelihood of me actually asking for a money back guarantee is very low. And like, unless a product is completely, like a physical product is broken or damaged, or a service has injured me, I'm pretty much like, yeah, cool. I decided to make the investment. I've got more of that onus on the buyer, like sort of thing. So yeah, but a money back guarantee is a nice little sweetener, but it's not a guarantee for me.
So then tell me about the research part, because this I think is really fascinating for me as someone who does very little research on stuff and just jumps in. Like literally explain it to me like I'm an alien, right? Because you might think everyone does this and it's obvious, but I don't think it is. So tell me, when you say you do your research, what things do you do? We'd love to hear.
So there are times when I'm actually quite impulsive, which would probably be my maverick coming out. So like there are times where I've bought personal development courses, for example, and it's because I was like, oh, the next time that person's in my city, I'm going to go to their program. And then I saw a bus that was like, oh, it's coming next, like in 2 months' time. So I was like, oh, because I didn't know that actually they came every year. So I was like, oh, I better go to that. So it was quite impulsive. And then I really enjoyed it. Other times, yeah, I've done sort of like maybe like the free masterclass or the free workshop, and then being like, yep, cool, I want to join the program. But for other things, I might actually have like a year and a half where I'm following the person and looking at their free content, and sort of extracting however much value I can from that before actually making that step, and sort of committing. And sometimes that's more to do with time than it is with money. The money's there because I'm an accumulator. I could totally afford it now. But if I feel like I can't, if I feel like I'm not going to be able to do the program or do the course in the best way possible and really carve that time out and extract the value from it, then I am more reluctant to kind of sign up for it immediately. I would rather wait until there's a time where I know that I'm going to really sort of, I'm not doing other things at the time, or I know I've got some free space coming up. Because I am also a ruler archetype, I work really hard. And then because I'm a maverick archetype, I tend to reinvent the wheel. So then I end up kind of going for months where I'm actually really on that sort of that rat race. So that might be kind of, I wouldn't sign up for a program or a course during those periods. I might need to wait until I've got a time where I know I've got that free time, because I will interact, participate, do all of the lessons, extract as much value as I can because I've invested in it. So I want to get that return on investment. And like the star student of my change leadership program, she's like me. And so we were having this conversation and I was like, because she went through and she did every module and she came to every call and she practiced every exercise. And I was just like, you're star student, because that's how I do programs. And I was having a conversation with her and I said to her, I'm like, not everybody's like us. Not everybody's like us. And she's like, really? And I'm like, no. So again, like it's just that the purchasing doesn't necessarily have to be, it's not a time scale in terms of purchase decision. It's more really the research part is really thinking through what's going to be that return on investment, and do I have the capacity to do it and to do it well so that I can extract the value from it too.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And I think, the accumulators are always the ones saying, and when are the calls? And when are the calls? And I never remember the dates of anything. And it drives them crazy. I'm always like, Mark, I know you're on the comments. Can you please put in when the dates are? Because I don't know. But you do want to know all of those details. But when you say to calculate your return on investment, like, do you do a spreadsheet and go, okay, well, I'm selling something that's X. So will it help me sell, X amount more? Or like, how are you calculating that in your head?
Case studies are usually pretty good for me. So like where there's demonstrated evidence that people have gotten results. And then if that's coming through in a really authentic way, where it's not, overly salesy and people are really just talking about their own lives and their own experiences. And, if there is something that's like quick win, overnight success, make you a millionaire in a week, like I just kind of go smell a fish and I don't trust that. So that kind of that authenticity of messaging, those case studies that kind of show that that success is actually possible. And then also I start to think about how I would apply it myself with the content that I would be learning. How would I apply that? And what could I do with that? And could I actually turn it into something? And I am willing, probably the maverick archetype part of me is willing to take some risk. So I am willing to invest a bit up front, and sort of know that I've got the means within myself and the abilities to action whatever is being taught. And then it's really a test case of like, has that worked? Yes or no? So you like, if there's things that I've done that haven't necessarily been super successful or gotten those sorts of results, that's when I'll sort of put those to the wayside, and then I'm open to something new. But like I will do multiple things at once. So like I'm part of multiple different courses, and I tend to focus on sort of spirituality at the same time as business, at the same time as, something else. So I do multiple courses at one time, or multiple programs. I do go to those events where it's in a weekend or it's in the course of a few days. But when I go to do that, I will literally carve out the entire time. So I don't run off early. I don't have multiple commitments, because I'm like, I want to be there. I want to be present. I want to extract as much value, information, and also especially like doing activities there and then, because I am very busy. So I'll often sort of like forget to do them later, or not do them later. So I do those, but then I also I'm happy to do like long programs that are sort of like 6 to 8 weeks long. I'm doing one at the moment that's 10 weeks, and it's probably a bit long. I am finding myself it's a bit drawn out. So probably 6 weeks to 8 weeks would be the max sweet spot.
I have more follow-up questions. You cool with this, April? Because I find this really fascinating for all of us about how we can, market to other archetypes. But what about bonuses for you? Because so you said that, you don't have a time frame because you've got the money there. What's the thing that makes you go, okay, I have to? Is it a time limited bonus? Is it just, in yourself it's time, or is it something else?
I've usually already made the decision to purchase before the purchase opportunity comes up. So like all those extra things, they're sweeteners. Like they're kind of like sweeteners on the top, but I've already made the decision. So for one program, for example, I'd made the decision on day 2 of the workshop, even though there was another 2 days of the workshop, but I already made the decision to purchase. So anything that they could add in, it was like, okay, that's nice. Like I'll get that extra, but I already have sort of done that reflection and that thinking about the return on the investment. And yeah, like sometimes, like I love a bargain, love a saving. So discounts definitely work for me. Bundles definitely work for me because I love a saving and I've got the cash to do it up front. I will very rarely do subscription or payment plan. Almost never do a payment plan, because I'm like, well, why would I pay more? So if there is like a time limited thing, but I get extra things bundled in, that's definitely something that would like take me over the line. And then I probably have to think about whether or not, if something was offered online versus like live, would I be willing to pay more for the live experience because I am an accumulator, but then also because I have the ruler Maverick, would I just actually want to go and just do it? Because that's something that I'm thinking of offering my students, like a weekend to do the program, and I run it live for them. But the price point would be, like 50 to 70% more than if they purchased the online one. So it'll be good to kind of probably test that out, and then to also reflect, would I pay that extra, or would I just do the online to save the money because I'm an accumulator?
And that's when it opens up to the other archetypes, right? Because the connectors might really love that offering. And so for them, the value is being able to like look you in the eyes and give you a hug. They would almost pay the premium just for that, or to connect with other people there. And that's when you start to go, okay, I might have the same thing, but I'm going to sell it in slightly different ways to the different archetypes, the exact same thing. Now, I have often done payment plans. And so the idea of paying a little bit more or whatever doesn't bother me. But what we're experimenting with this time, because we've got all these hypotheses that we're trying out, is, we did the payment plan thing, and then we were like, we just kind of manipulated the price a little bit to be 111, because we were like, oh, this is going to get the alchemists. The alchemists are going to be like, it's a sign, it's, an angel number. And it would just be really interesting to see who takes those things up, because we're doing it right at the last minute, where we're doing like a short-term payment plan, but then we're kind of pulling one out at the end. And of course, yeah, they pay more for that, but it will just be interesting to see at what point in the process the different archetypes kind of like pull that trigger, and what are the things that make them happen. Okay, so the next question I have, and Lada, I want to hear from you about your last archetype, if you know what that is. And because I think we can learn just as much from that last one. My last ones are, I think, accumulator and celebrity. I can't remember exactly, but for me, I can dress up, I can look glamorous for a season, and I can do it for a week if I have a makeup artist come in, but it's work for me to do it. Like it's work for me I had to remember to go and get a manicure for the filming, and it's not my natural state of being. And so I remember the first couple of rounds of SMA, I was like, oh, we're not getting a lot of celebrities in there. And so I was like, I need to glam up a bit to attract the celebrities. But I was like, I just can't sustain that for very long, right? And then the connector's low for me too. And so I need to make sure I've got people on my team who really have that caring, mentality, so they can make sure that customer service is done, and we send out flowers and we send out thank you cards, things that me and it'd be good to hear. None of us have connector energy here, right? Sometimes you can steamroll people a little bit because you just don't have that. So I knew really early on I needed connectors on my team to do the caring stuff, the social lubrication stuff. So they're my low ones. Lada, what are your low archetypes?
So my bottom 3 archetypes, I mean, they're all pretty close, but the nurturer is sort of like the 4th down. And then it's the romantic connector, and then the celebrity.
Oh,
so I actually don't know much about those archetypes, but I definitely resonate in terms of that, like, putting on that show and then kind of taking it off. And even like last night I was just recording a podcast, and like 10 minutes before the podcast I'm putting on my makeup and then as soon as it finishes I'm taking it off. And I was naturally an introvert as a child, but I sort of got pushed into public speaking and things like that in order to build that sort of extroversion in me, like by my teachers and by my family. And so I've sort of learned how to almost wear it as an act. And then I naturally wanted to become more extroverted through university. And I wanted to sort of have more networks, more friends, and just do more things, because I do enjoy fun and sort of social aspects and things like that. So I pushed myself, like through sheer hard will, pushed myself to become more extroverted. So I'd say I'm probably more of an ambivert now, but I definitely, after any type of event, after doing any type of live session for my clients and my students, I sort of feel both wired and tired at the same time, because it's kind of all that adrenaline and all of that sort of vibrancy and energy has been hyped up, and then to try and come off the back of that can be really difficult. And it can be like I'm already tired, and it might be that I don't go to bed until 11 or midnight, which usually I actually have an alarm set on my phone for 8:30 because I have a evening routine. So usually I'm in bed by 10, but sometimes I'm so tired and so wired after delivering something that I end up like messing up all my sleep cycles and everything too. So and I think I'm not sure exactly on those archetypes. I'm keen to kind of go in and have a look at them, but from a celebrity perspective probably, and maybe even a romantic, brand names, flashy stuff, luxury, is just not a thing for me. Like I don't look at those items like cars, handbags, shoes, and really kind of get switched on or get excited. So that's probably as well, probably helps my accumulator, because it means that I'm not spending on necessarily like those luxurious items. But saying that, I do want to have a life of luxury and freedom and have that choice. It's probably just not spending on material things, clothing, or kind of like lifestyle, showy sort of aspects, I would say.
So we're coming to the hour. I would just love to hear from each of you. What advice would you give to someone who's thinking about joining SMA?
For anyone who's thinking of doing SMA, I would definitely recommend it. Being an accumulator myself, it is definitely an investment that has return on investment in terms of being able to understand more about you, what drives you, what motivates you, what some of your gifts are, what some of your challenges are, where you might be holding yourself back, sabotaging yourself, but then also where you can maybe, step it up a little bit and go with the flow and actually flow with your personality and with your money archetype rather than against it, and using that as a jumping off board to actually go for your success and the abundance that you want for your life and for your career. And I would also say that for anybody who is thinking of who works with people, which probably is all of us, it's also fantastic because you can really start to understand other people, build empathy for how other people think, how other people feel, what their archetypes might be, and what might be driving them, and potentially open up new channels of success and abundance for yourself as well.
So, are you a ruler, a connector, or a maverick? Hang on, maybe you're more of a romantic or a celebrity. Take the Money Personality Quiz right now and find out which of the 8 money archetypes you are. And then I'm going to teach you how to profit from your strengths and make money in your business based on your natural personality. Click below and find out more.